All right, welcome back. This is, I believe, the third part of the Let's Build for Ruby and Rails Developer series. I'm going to be building, if you're not sure what that is, I'm going to be building an app and basically documenting the whole thing. That's a place for either developers or employers to find developers that are basically Rubyists or Rails developers specifically. There's nothing like that besides a few that I've seen that exist that are seemingly out of date and just could use some refreshing. I'm really inspired by a job board called We Work Remotely for this, so I'm kind of going around that concept, maybe stealing some of their ideas of how to display a job and maybe feature a job, etc. So the premise of the app will be either to post a job, find a job, or be part of the community side of it for developers to kind of hang out in a water cooler fashion. So we're going to be building those aspects of an app using Rails specifically, of course, and then I'm basically going to just take it one step at a time and go through as much as I can share as possible. This app will be, fully functional and hopefully something that maybe generates some income. We'll see. If not, that's okay too. It's more or less me teaching and showing off in public and making it, open so everyone can either learn from it, gain something out of it, or, give me feedback on what I could have done better. So with that, this video kicks off the initialization of the first app. We're going to, not the first app, the app itself. So I'm actually going to install Rails and kick off the app, and then install some gems and kind of get it ready to roll in terms of development. I am going to use a template I call Kickoff Tailwind. Some of you might know of it. If not, it's basically a starting point for a Rails app that saves me a lot of time and comes with support for devise, friendly ID, sidekick, and name of person, which are separate gems that you can install and have integrated into the app that do a lot for us. I actually made some updates just 2 days ago and removed what was a username attribute on the user model and replaced it with this name of person gem, which might be new to you guys if you've started this repo or used it in the past. And this gem's actually by DHH of Basecamp, so the guy who created Ruby on Rails to begin with. Basically just a really quick and easy gem to get use out of a name column in your database. It's actually going to have a first name and last name column. And with that, you add this attribute to your model, and you're able to do a ton with just the name itself. So like the full name, first name, a familiar name, shortening the last name with a period, and just all these cool little handy things you could do to make the app more personable, I think. So we're going to add that based off the gem or the template itself. So the template's already got that installed once you go ahead and run a new app with it. I'm going to pull down this from GitHub now, I believe. So I'm in my code directory, my basic code directory. I'm going to cd into kickoff. I already have it on this computer, but I'm going to pull it down and get the basics. This is what changed since I last changed it. So I updated devise, views, and added some updates to buttons and forms in particular in terms of the UI. So I've kind of upgraded what's available there. There's a lot of new button colors and form styles that are kind of more customized and less basic. So if you want to check it out, go ahead. If not, cool. But I would recommend following along. If you're going to follow along, use this template. Not because I'm trying to get you to use it, but more or less just save yourself some headache and time, because you'd have to set up devise, you have to set up sidekick, friendly ID, I believe is bundled with this, and now name a person too. I try to make the template very basic, but of course Tailwind's with it as well, which is in its own right kind of a tough install sometimes, but Tailwind should be updated to the latest version when you install this, so that's great. So I'm going to actually create a new app outside of this app, but referencing it, the template. So inside this kickoff tailwind folder is going to be a template.rb file. We're going to use that to kind of scaffold the initial app. So I'm going to say Rails new, Rails devs, which is what I'm calling the actual app. I have the .com, and then we'll pass the template with the -m, and then we'll say, since I have this locally, I'll say kickoff tailwind, and then pass the template.rb file. And if all goes good and well, things will just take off. So this could take some time. I might fast forward to this. If you don't see me skip right ahead, then you'll see it all install. So here we go. Okay, my laptop's fan's running. If you hear it, I'm sorry, but installing all this stuff takes some RAM, So in the app, let's check it out. I'm running Ruby 2.7.1. If you're not, if you were gonna wonder what I'm running, Rails should be bleeding edge as far as I know. So let's open up the gem file, and you can see what's going on inside it. Might move this to a new window. Come on. Let me do this. Go. And gem file 2.7.1 Rails 6.03, which should be the latest. If you want to get bleeding edge, you can use the GitHub bit there. I'm actually going to remove these comments. I kind of don't like them. Might just search for these. Ooh, maybe I won't actually do this. But the basic defaults here are, of course, Webpacker, Sass, Rails, TurboLinks, SQLite 3. We'll start off with that. Probably going to use, you need bcrypt, I don't think. Probably going to use Postgres for, I mentioned that in like the second video, for our main database. I'll go ahead and install these two gems because we might need them for image processing. Redis will be useful for maybe if we use active action cable or some sort of background processing kind of thing going on. Let me get rid of this. Kind of wish you could pass a no comments flag or something in the gem file. Maybe there is one. All right, so here's below is all of our custom ones. I might just have, custom. Actually, I might just move these up here below our main groups. Rails devs custom gems, something like that. And what I want to do in this video primarily is just get things set up. That template we just installed did a lot of the work for us. So Tailwind's installed. We have post CSS plugin called Purge CSS installed too. So in the production environment, once I launch this to a production environment, this will actually go through the HTML and remove any Tailwind classes that aren't being in use. So that really cuts down on file size and speeds up the app in terms of CSS. A Rails 6 app does ship with what were used to be called the main bread and butter of Asset Pipeline. It doesn't include JavaScript anymore. It used to. If you're on Rails like 5.2 app or something, it would include a JavaScript directory in this assets folder. Since 6, I believe, or 5, actually since 5.2, I believe, it's all gone to the Webpack experience. So everything in this main app JavaScript folder is going to be all Webpack based. Your vanilla Rails app won't have the style sheets directory. I actually include that in my template, and reasoning is because Tailwind CSS is a post CSS plugin, but it's all generated via JavaScript. So from this file is actually the theme, and this is the basic default stub from the GitHub repo that I copied into that template. And you just basically reference this as your source of truth for Tailwind's classes that get generated. There's a lot here, so if you don't have that post CSS Purge CSS plugin added to your stack, I'd really recommend it, just to save yourself some some loading time for sure. But all that stuff's included in the main application packed.js file. So in app JavaScript packs application.js. So these come by default when you add Rails to a new Rails app. Below is what gets added from my template. And all this gets piped through to our main view that's going to be in layouts application. And this is customized HTML based on my template again, but if you go into the head portion, these actual links are what gets the JavaScript piped into the view so we can actually use it in the app. So the style sheet pack tag and JavaScript pack tag are pretty much a necessary thing at this point. Your vanilla, if you're not using my template, it's going to ship without this style sheet pack tag and just the JavaScript pack tag, but you will see the style sheet link tag. This one, it's up to you if you want to use that. I think we might use it for maybe something included in a gem at some point. A lot of gems include the old pattern of assets coming from this directory. I might either port those out from the gem into the JavaScript directory or just include them like old school. I haven't made up that mindset yet. I don't know. I might keep everything in the Webpack area. But that's enough of the front end talk. Let's get back into setting up our app for success here. We've got our basic gems, devise, friendly ID, sidekick, and name of person installed. For friendly ID to work, there's still some work to be done on the model there, but we'll do that later on. For now, devise is ready and has person name is part of that name of person gem I've installed. I need to fix that little space there on my template. But the idea there is that it's going to give us access to a name attribute when we query for a user instead of like the first name and last name field. So in our database, it's actually going to have the first name and last name. But what's great is I won't need to actually reference either of those directly. I could, but I don't need to with that has person name module included. So that gem's pretty handy with that. Let's go ahead and install some of the gems I was going to talk about, or I did talk about the last time. Let me go back, enter my Notion document, if I can remember. There we go. I'm glad it went right to it. That's so cool. So I have the main community side of this will be Chris from GoRails Simple Discussion Gem. I think we're going to leverage that. I don't really need to install it right now, but I might just because it might be the last thing we do because there's some setup involved. We do want to install whenever gems, so I'll probably go look for that. I'm at rubygems.com. So this is useful for cron jobs. I imagine we'll use this perhaps for updating maybe feeds or something regarding job listings, or if I do the newsletter portion of the app, it will be possible to schedule that and tell the like programmatically tell when the newsletter should be sent or archived or whatever we want to do there. So I'll go back to the file, just go ahead and add that, and I'll run a bundle install here in a second when I get all the gems ready. But annotate is one I wanted to add. This is going to be in our development environment, so I'm going to get the basic one. So Ruby gems, I just tend to go to this site. So annotate. So one cool thing you could do, just kind of like Yarn. I'm going to the website just to get the latest version, but you could just as easily say bundle add a certain gem if you have one in mind. So if we do bundle add, I'll do one for example. Let's try Faker. And it's going to add it to the main gem file, but I actually want to get it in the development environment. So I'll go back to that file. We're going to find it somewhere here, right at the bottom. We actually want to move it to development. Actually, probably development and test. Use it in tests. So just like that, you could do it. I don't know if that's the current version. I imagine it is. So maybe we'll do that just to make our lives a little easier. Annotate or bundle add. I'm sure there's a flag you can pass. Oh, I already added it. Really? No, we didn't. Oh yeah, I did. Let's go here. And there we go. What else did I have? The stripe, of course. Yeah, we've got that. So let's just do stripe and stripe event. So bundle add stripe. Could probably do like all these in a line, but I just want to show you by example here, so we're not getting too far ahead of ourselves. There's stripe. I like to group these alphabetically if I'm not certain otherwise. Command Shift P, and then sort ascending, probably descending. Nope, we went ascending. There we go. Save. So again, bundle add. Cool. Oops. Oops. And I want to use the gem pay again from Chris and Co. So we'll say bundle and let's see, I think it's pay rails. We'll find out. Yeah, I think it's just called pay, which is crazy that they got that name to work. It's tiny and short and sweet. All right, and what else we got? Paggy. Inline SVG for sure. I love that gem. It's so, you don't honestly interface with it the way I use it, but it's so handy. I love to use SVGs. Add inline SVG. I don't want to install everything under the earth here like AWS right now or Honey Badger. Those feel like good things to do later. Postgres too. We could start with Postgres. I mean, that might make sense. Maybe I will do that just to get it set up. And Pry Rails, I think I installed. Nope. Add that, and let's verify those. So SVG is going to be our main. Pry is going to be our development environment. We don't need that in production. Same with these. I'll order these. And these. I don't know why they're not ordered to begin with. One I might break that on is Rails. I like to see it first. There we go. All right, and I think that should do it, guys. So aside from some of these other ones that probably aren't super necessary at this point. Oh yeah, PG. We can do a Rails-based command for that. So first let's bundle install everything we just did. Make sure it's actually going to do it. Okay, it did. So if you do, what's the command? Let's check out the prompts here. I think it's Rails DB system change. Yep, right there. So what I want to do is Rails DB system change to PostgreSQL. So what this does is automates the process of changing your current configuration of database to another. So we're using SQLite 3 by default now, but I want to use Postgres in the end anyway, so it probably makes sense to just start off that way, assuming your system's set up to do that. If not, SQL 3 works just as fine. You could even probably use SQL 3 in production in some places, but I think what we use is kind of the standardized system here. So let's try this. It's going to say conflict because there's already a database YAML file. We'll go ahead and overwrite it though with a Y, and it'll force that change as well as add PG to your gem file. So it actually swaps the SQLite one for it. So that's pretty handy. So we've got PG instead of SQLite 3 now. So that's just kind of a nice quality of life thing that used to actually be a required manual change, which was always kind of tedious when you're messing with YAML files and whatnot. So with that done, we have, for the most part, I think things ready to roll. Redis from the ID. OmniAuth we'll save for later. I don't think that might be something we might not ship with. Oh yeah, simple discussion, kind of the main bread and butter here. Like I said, I was going to save this for last. So let's go to this actual GitHub. I'll do gem simple discussion. Never installed this, so I know it's kind of new. So we'll see what happens. So actually, see if we can add it from bundle. So it does use Bootstrap, which I'm not a huge fan of, but that's okay. Probably won't use Font Awesome either. So it's a dependency, and it looks like it uses will paginate, which is different from Pagi, but that's okay. Yeah, so let's go into our gem file, boot that up in our simple, I think that would fit there. Let's order these again. I know whenever should be last. I don't know why it's first. There we go. All right, so if we do a bundle, once again, just to make sure, and then if I just boot the app, let's see if we get to our starting route path without a hitch. Who knows if we will. Looks like it's okay. Database does not exist. Okay, that makes sense. So we need to create those. So Rails DB create. I have Postgres installed behind the scenes. I typically use Homebrew to install that. You might need to do it differently. I'd recommend using Homebrew if you can, if you're on a Mac for sure. If not, I believe you could do a like a GUI installation of PostgreSQL, or even there's some actual GUI apps out there, or command line apps out there that work too. So here's our database. It's created. We probably need to do Rails DB migrate next to actually get somewhere, since this is all new data. There we go. This is the base template. When I install it, it assumes it's SQLite 3, and in this case we needed to kind of redo it with PostgreSQL. So here we created devise and the friendly ID slugs and all that stuff. So I could actually go over to our code real quick and show you what gets created from the migrations. So devise, I've actually changed this to be first name and last name, like I said, since we're using that new gem instead of like username and actual name. So if you're using this template maybe from a few weeks or months back, it has changed, but it shouldn't be breaking, I don't think. If you should only use this template for a new app anyway, so I don't think it'll be a big issue. One thing I just noticed is if we want to do confirmable for devise, it kind of makes maybe sense in this case. So if we do that we would have these columns on the user model. So maybe I'll do that just to be safe. I don't know that I'll really use it, but I want to not have to go way back in time and fix that. So I'll do Rails DB rollback and go into that migration real quick and fix that. I'm going to do it twice to get back to the user creation. There we go. And now we can modify this migration file. So I'll actually uncomment these. Because what we'll do is when a new account's created, I need you to go confirm it. And that will be kind of a security practice that we use. I think that might make sense for this app. Some apps it does not at all. And it's honestly a hindrance, but I think it's okay in this case. So we'll save that down. That's all we needed to do. Add that index and these 4 columns. We will need to update the model and the user to have, let's see, confirmable. I think my views already are there, so confirmation's new. Should be good. This will get sent in an email, and then the user lands here, I believe. All right, so let's migrate again. There we go. And I just want to boot the app just to make sure it's all working great. There's still some setup to do on a few gems that we need to take care of, but nothing too crazy. There we go. You can see if you followed this template at all, I updated it slightly, the UI of it. The buttons look a little different, but that's by design, as well as the checkboxes and stuff. They're all kind of customized now, which looks pretty cool to me. One thing I need to do now is, that's basically it for getting the app ready to roll, but we need to kind of get these gems up to spec. So Annotate has its own little install script, so we need to run that. I just closed the damn thing. So Annotate gem, go to that. I think I remember what it is, but I want to make sure it's Rails generate annotate install. Do that. It just adds a little task. So every time we run a migration now, that will annotate our models, our tests, and everything else. If you want to check that rake file out, it is in bin. I think it's in here. Where am I looking? It's in lib tasks, annotate rake. So it's just a rake task. You can create a task. I need to go over this. You can create these on your own, and they're pretty nifty. This is when that whenever gem would make sense. So you run this task. So this just generates all that stuff. They're just comments. So you'll see that in practice coming up. But for now, we should be good. I wonder if we could do it, even though I migrated, if it'll do it anyway for the existing model. Yeah, there we go. So if we go to user, see the stuff in the comments come through. It's pretty handy because then you don't have to go look to your schema for like a source of truth. I like it. I like it. I like it. Okay, so with that installed, we can basically set up simple discussion next. I think I don't know for certain if I have a helper for the inline SVG. I do not, so I'll need to actually add that next just to get that stuff in set up. Let me do that real quick. It's a function that I call render SVG. I add this to like every app. And then you pass in the name, and then there's some default styles you can add. So I'll say fill current, text gray. These are all tailwind classes. And then title is going to be nil. So then we can pass in a file name, will be the name we pass, so name.svg. Then we can say title will either be nil or the name dot underscore dot humanize. So that's handy for accessibility. When you hover over an icon, it kind of presents an actual title. So if a screen reader or something's going through, it'll actually be able to read it. So here we'll pass the name through. This is the inline SVG gem method that we need to pass these things through to. So we'll say first the file name will go through, and then we could say aria true for, again, accessibility. No comment. I'm not exactly sure what this means. But then we'll pass the title field through, and then the class will actually be the styles attribute. So I use this pretty much anywhere I use an icon on an app, and it's just super handy. Another one that we'll use, I'm sure, is just an admin flag. So we could say admin, it's going to be a yes or no or true or false. So we could just say user signed in and current user admin. So the Boolean would be true or false. And then one I do a lot is author of resource. So basically, did this person create this thing? And if so, they should be the ones to edit it only. We could also amend this to be an admin too if we wanted, but for now I'll just do the singular author. Typically on the thing they're creating, there's going to be a user ID column, and that's going to be handy just to kind of, for this specific reason. All right, with those in store, we should be set in terms of basic helpers. We'll get to more later on. And then next we need to account for the simple discussion gem finally. Sorry, I've been holding off on that one. So let's go to that repo. I believe it's right here. We can install migrations. I'm just going to go down the list of the guide. So we've got form categories, threads, posts, and subscriptions. Looks pretty gnarly, so props to Chris for this. There we go. And back to the guide, we need to include a module here. So we already have the name method, which is a good, or we have first name and last name. We can add that to our model though. So I'll go to user and include it. And then we need a method I'll add below, just called name. Can't type. There we go. Believe that should work. You can add a moderator flag to the user model to allow users to edit threads and posts they didn't write. I guess we could just go ahead and add that. In case any of you all want to help be moderator, that'd be cool. Cool. Where did that actually annotate? So we need an actual engine mounted in the routes file. So routes, could just throw that. Where would that go? Just anywhere? I think that would work. I don't think we need to be outside of it. Might check the default styles here and see what's up. I'm a stickler. Yeah, almost don't want to include this. Yeah, I think I'm going to let that slide for now, and then we can just kind of scaffold our own adventure there. Here's the rest. Of course, we'll customize the views, so I will do that. The controllers I might leave alone just to let most of the logic happen from the gym. I might check out these helpers just to essentially see what the hell they are. I could have just looked in the source, but email and Slack notifications. Maybe I'll set this up, but just go to false for start. So initializers, we need an initializer called simple discussion. So this gets auto-loaded. Anything in this file, once you boot the app, gets loaded, so you don't have to like worry about doing much here. You just go ahead and queue this up and do the things. Probably go ahead and do true for this. Slack we can maybe deal with later. Oh, we could just default to true, huh? I'll leave it alone for now. We'll reference this back in a second. Maybe I'll add a comment in this file right to that section. And I believe that's it. So that's to contribute. Cool, cool, cool. So it'll be on /forum is the main app. So if we reboot the app, see if we get any errors. Cool. If we go to forum. All right. Ask a question. Okay, he's got devise set up for that. Very cool. So we can customize this to our heart's content. I'll make sure it looks fancy because that's where I excel, I think. But I think that's a good start. So regarding testing, I believe I'm going to use what's vanilla in the Rails app. So it's usually mini test and not go too crazy there. I know most people use RSpec and stuff like that, but to me, less is more. We'll use the fixture concept and mini tests to get things rolling here. So with all that, we should be all set to go. The cool thing about Annotate is it does it in a test file too. So we've got that going on. There might be some extra stuff we need to add to the test helper to build some basic setup and tear down functions and whatnot. So I'll probably keep tests seemingly light to save on time, but there's going to be some stuff like integration tests that will really make more sense. Some of these aren't necessary, at least for this kind of MVP style of app at first, but of course down the line you want to test all the things. So I think we're good to go, guys. If you're following along, this whole video and probably from here on out will be pretty much unscripted. I'm going to try to get through this stuff without stumbling too hard, but as programmers can probably relate, we spend a lot of our time Googling or reading documentation or just getting things figured out from errors and whatnot. So I'm hoping it won't be too tough, but we shall see. So look for more of that to come and more of this stuff to come. Yeah, I'm really excited to kick this off. Coming up, we'll probably start to kind of flesh out at least some basic modeling around the job posts and the user model. and getting that side of it going, and then maybe start looking into cleaning up the views and maybe consider getting Vue.js installed. I think I'm going to use that for the main new job form, combined with Stimulus.js. So I'll probably use a lot of frameworks in this app, but sparingly, if that makes sense. So we'll see how that turns out. I'm excited to press ahead. If you guys are too, I'd appreciate you following along or subscribing or telling your friends, whatever you want to do. That'd be cool too. So I will see you in the very next video. Peace. Hello Rails is my new course on Ruby on Rails. I'll teach you Ruby on Rails from the ground up. Visit hellorails.io for more information.